I've been married to Kathy for 20 years now, and we've been together for 24. When we first met, everything was perfect. We were young, in love, and life was full of possibilities. But over the years, things have changed, and not for the better. Kathy's always been strong-willed, which I admired at first. She knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to go after it. But somewhere along the way, that strength turned into something else. Now it feels like every day is a battle. She's constantly criticizing me, berating me for the smallest things. It's like nothing I do is ever good enough for her. At first, I tried to brush it off. She's just stressed, I told myself. Work is tough, and she's dealing with a lot. But the excuses started to wear thin. The harsh words, the constant nitpicking, it all started to take a toll on me. I found myself dreading coming home, knowing that another argument was just around the corner. I tried to talk to her about it, hoping we could work things out. But every time I brought it up, it turned into another fight. She'd accuse me of being too sensitive, of not being able to handle a strong woman. But it's not about that. I love strong women. I loved her for her strength. But there's a difference between being strong and being cruel. I miss the Kathy I fell in love with, the one who laughed with me, who supported me, who made me feel like I could conquer the world. Now I just feel like I'm constantly walking on eggshells, waiting for the next blow-up. I've thought about leaving more times than I can count, but it's not that simple. We've built a life together. We have a home, memories, shared dreams, and despite everything, I still love her. I remember the good times, and it breaks my heart to think of throwing it all away. But how much more can I take? Every day, I feel myself getting closer to the edge, closer to the point where I just can't do it anymore. I don't want to give up on us, but I don't know how to fix it either. I wish she could see what she's doing to me, to us. I wish she could remember the love we once had and find a way back to it. But right now, that feels like a distant dream, and I'm left wondering how much longer I can hold on. Maybe it's time for a change. Maybe it's time to put myself first for once. Because as much as I love Kathy, I can't keep living like this. I deserve to be happy too. I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I needed to talk to her about how I was feeling, hoping against hope that she would understand. As I approached her, I could already feel the tension building. "Kathy, can we talk for a minute?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. She sighed heavily, barely glancing up from her phone. "What is it now, Tom? I'm busy. I know, but I really need to talk to you about something that's been bothering me," I said, my heart pounding in my chest. "Oh, great. Here we go again," she said with a scoff. "What did I do this time?" It's not about what you did," I began, choosing my words carefully. "It's about how you speak to me. Lately, it feels like you're constantly criticizing me, and it's really wearing me down." "Are you serious?" she snapped, her eyes narrowing. "You're being overly sensitive again. You need to toughen up. Life isn't all sunshine and rainbows." "It's not about being sensitive," I tried to explain. "It's about feeling respected and valued. I feel like nothing I do is ever good enough for you." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You're just looking for something to complain about. Maybe if you actually did something right for a change, I wouldn't have to criticize you all the time." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "Kathy, I'm serious. This constant berating is making me miserable. I miss the way we used to be, when we could talk to each other without all this negativity." She laughed bitterly. "Well, maybe if you weren't so useless, we wouldn't have this problem. Maybe the issue isn't me. Maybe it's you." I felt a lump forming in my throat. "I'm trying, Kathy. I'm really trying. But I can't keep doing this if things don't change. We need to work on this together." "Work on what?" she snapped. "You're the one with the problem, not me. I'm not going to change just because you're too weak to handle a little criticism." I stood there, speechless, feeling the last bit of hope draining away. It was clear she wasn't willing to see my side of things. I didn't know what to do next, but one thing was certain: I couldn't keep living like this. A few days later, I stumbled upon something that shattered what little was left of my hope. I found out that Kathy was cheating on me with my longtime nemesis from high school, Brad. The betrayal cut deep, much deeper than I ever thought possible. I found the evidence by accident. I was cleaning up the living room when Kathy's phone buzzed on the coffee table. Normally, I wouldn't invade her privacy, but curiosity got the better of me. The message preview on the screen was from Brad, and it read, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Love you." My heart sank. I scrolled through their messages, each one more incriminating than the last. There were pictures, intimate conversations, plans for secret meetups. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. Kathy had been betraying me, and with Brad of all people. I felt a mix of rage and devastation. How could she do this to me? How could she betray our marriage and everything we had built together? And with Brad, the person who had tormented me throughout high school, it felt like a cruel joke. That night, I confronted her. She didn't even bother to deny it. She just looked at me with a cold indifference and said, "Well, now you know." The anger boiled over. "How long has this been going on, Kathy? How long have you been sneaking around behind my back?" She shrugged, seemingly unfazed by my pain. "A few months, maybe longer. Does it really matter?" "Of course it matters," I shouted, feeling the tears welling up in my eyes. "You betrayed me. You destroyed our marriage." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, stop being so dramatic, Tom. You were never enough for me. Brad actually makes me feel alive." Her words stung, but they also gave me a strange sense of clarity. This was it. This was the final straw. There was no saving our marriage. Kathy had made her choice, and now I had to make mine. "I'm done," I said quietly, my voice trembling. "I'm done with this marriage. I'm done with you." She just stared at me, expressionless. "Fine. Whatever. Do what you have to do." The next morning, I contacted a lawyer and started the divorce proceedings. It hurt, and it was going to be a long, painful process, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I deserved better than this. I deserved to be happy. As I packed my things and prepared to leave, I felt a strange sense of relief. This was the end of a painful chapter, but it was also the beginning of a new one. For the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. I didn't know what it would bring, but I knew I had the strength to face it. Discovering Kathy's betrayal with Brad was the final blow. I had no choice but to start divorce proceedings, but I wasn't going to let her walk away easily. Luckily, we had a prenuptial agreement in place that would protect my assets and ensure that I wouldn't have to pay alimony. As the divorce process unfolded, I fought tooth and nail to ensure that the prenup was honored. It wasn't just about the money, it was about standing up for myself after all the years of emotional abuse and now infidelity. My lawyer was relentless, and we gathered every piece of evidence needed to prove Kathy's infidelity. Kathy was predictably furious when she realized that she wouldn't be getting any of my assets or alimony. She had expected to walk away with a significant portion of our wealth, but the prenup and the evidence of her affair left her with nothing. One evening, as we were finalizing the details, she confronted me in the courtroom, her eyes blazing with anger. "You really think you've won, don't you?" she spat. I looked at her, feeling a mix of sadness and resolve. "This isn't about winning, Kathy. It's about what's fair. You betrayed me, and now you have to face the consequences." She sneered, but there was a glimmer of resignation in her eyes. "Fine. Keep your money, Tom. I don't need it. Brad and I will be just fine without you." Hearing her mention Brad so casually, as if our years together meant nothing, still hurt, but I stood firm. "I hope you find what you're looking for, Kathy." The divorce was finalized soon after, and I kept everything I had worked so hard for. Kathy, despite her initial anger, seemed almost relieved to be rid of me. Without the burden of legal battles, she wasted no time moving on, making plans to marry Brad. During all this, my daughter Sarah walked the tightrope between both her parents. She did, however, give a piece of her mind to her mother when the details of her affair with Brad came out. As I watched Kathy pack up the last of her things, there was a strange sense of closure. The woman I had loved for so long was gone, replaced by someone I barely recognized. But that was okay. I was ready to move forward, to rebuild my life without the constant negativity and betrayal. Kathy's departure was both a loss and a liberation. There were times I was so happy that Kathy was now out of my life. Had she not cheated, I might have filed for divorce myself. I might have lost more than what I lost now. Good riddance, I must say. There are times when someone wants to steal something from you but does not know that you really wanted to get rid of that same thing. Well, Brad just did that for me. If she becomes half of the demon that she was during my marriage to her, Brad is going to have a really tough life. For me, it was time to start anew and find happiness on my own terms. Life moved on, and I moved ahead. A few months later, they say the sense of smell is the strongest of the five senses. It can bring back memories even from your childhood. The fragrance I smelled when I opened my mailbox wasn't from my childhood, but I recognized it immediately. It brought back memories and turned my mood foul. The fragrance was Christian Dior's Dune. It had been Kathy's favorite for most of our marriage. I knew why I was smelling it. She must have sent me an invitation to her upcoming wedding. What a witch! Like I want to go see her joining her lover in marriage. I already knew that he was joining her in our marital bed. That is why she is now my ex-wife. I rifled through the mail, setting the bills and junk mail to the side until I saw it. Of course, it was an ornate envelope with my name and address hand-calligraphed in deep purple ink. Kathy's favorite color, the color of royalty, she would say when anyone asked her. Royalty, huh? She was no closer to royalty than my dog, which she took in the divorce. Am I bitter? Hell yes, I am. She cheated on me with my lifelong nemesis and took my dog. Taking the dog was the more cruel of the two. I wouldn't even have opened the invitation except that I wanted to know when the wedding was so I could conveniently be out of town. July 23rd at 3:00 p.m. I'm sure I could find somewhere else to be. I looked at the name of the place where the ceremony was going to be held. I couldn't believe she was actually getting remarried in a church, not just any church, but the most prestigious and pompous church in the city. How could she even think of getting married in a church after she cheated on me? Oh, but her new husband, Toby, was rich, so I guess only the best for her. I ceremoniously threw the invitation into the wastebasket. I had been in a great mood before I came home. Now my mood was sour. It had been a good day at work. One of the newer office staff, Julia, had stopped by my cubicle and we flirted a little. At least I hope she was flirting and not just being nice. This last year and a half had been a tough one, but her attention really boosted my ego and lifted my spirits. I thought about my ex-wife. We had had 24 years together, 20 as husband and wife. I grabbed a beer out of the fridge, turned on the TV, and plopped down on the couch. I'm not sure how long I was sitting there, but it must have been a while. When I went to take the last swig of beer from the bottle, the beer was warm. I looked at the bottle and was contemplating grabbing another one when my phone rang. It was my daughter, Sarah. "Hello, Pooh Bear," I said. "Hey, Dad, how are you doing?" "Well, I was doing great until I got home and grabbed the mail. So you must have gotten the invitation today, too," she stated. "Yeah, can you believe it? Sorry, Dad. I told her she shouldn't send you one, but she insisted, saying, 'Hez got to get over it. He can come to the wedding if for no other reason than to see his daughter as a bridesmaid.' Well, I have no intention of going. I already threw the invitation into the trash where it can join her." "Dad, would you reconsider?" "Honey, I'm planning on being out of town that weekend," I declared. "Dad, I really want you to be there. I will need you there for support. You know I don't really want to be in the wedding, but she made me feel guilty. She wanted me to be the maid of honor, but I told her no way. Sarah, you don't need my support. Brent will be there to support you. Dad, what are you going to do next year when Brent and I get married? Are you going to avoid that wedding too?" "Of course not, Pooh Bear. I can't wait to walk you down the aisle and give you away. So you'll have to be in the same church with them next year. Can't you be the better man and come to this one?" "I don't think I am the better man, honey," I said to her. "Well, think about it, Dad. I really want you to be there with me." "I'll think about it," I told her. "I would have to think about it. I would have to really think about it. I don't think I can be the better man and put this behind me. Kathy and I were supposed to be married for life. I guess she wanted to trade up rather than stick with the old model." As I sat there thinking, I decided to try to do something that I had done a number of times throughout my life. When I was young, I was instructed to write down my problems. Putting it down on paper helps to deal with each concern or issue instead of the whole problem. As I was writing, I decided that probably the fact that Brad, her new husband Toby, had been my rival since junior high, made the betrayal even worse. I knew that I wouldn't be able to tell him face to face how I felt, so I decided to write it down. I had no intentions of giving it to him, but it would help me to get it off my chest. Brad, well, I guess the best man has won. Kathy has chosen to be with you for the rest of your life. Ever since junior high, we've been in competition. You truly were my arch rival. Even in high school, we were competing. Kathy had been someone we competed for, but she chose someone else. Later, while you were at college, she chose me. But I guess even after all these years, you couldn't stand that Kathy had married me. One would think that you would have gotten past it. But no, you had to pursue her just because she was mine? Sure, I'm pissed at you, but I'm really pissed at my loving wife, or rather my ex-wife. The fact that she succumbed to your advances showed me that even after 24 years, I didn't really know her. When we first started dating, we would tell each other all of our hopes, dreams, and even our fears for hours on end. By the end of our marriage, we didn't talk much. Well, I didn't talk much. She did all of the talking. On and on. I guess I should have been listening more. Maybe I would have heard the alarms warning me that she was leaving me. I keep thinking of all the things about Kathy that I used to love. Now you will be the one to experience all that makes her her. You'll get to wake up next to her and see her au naturel. You will be the only one to ever see her that way. No makeup, hair in the morning, bedhead style, and the morning breath. She'll immediately go to the bathroom to brush both her hair and her teeth, as well as put on layers of makeup. You may want to get into the bathroom before her, or else you'll be waiting an hour. After I had written those words, I set the pages down and decided to go out to the bar to take my mind off my problems. I'm a little ashamed to say that I had to get an Uber to take me home because I was too drunk to drive. The next day was Saturday, so I slept off my hangover. In fact, I didn't get out of bed until 2:00. I just couldn't find a reason to get up before then. The smell of my body sweating out the alcohol finally made me get up for no other reason than to take a shower and grab a bite to eat. I felt better after my shower, so I decided to grab a burger at the pub. I had to Uber back to get my car anyway. The burger helped, as well as a little hair of the dog that bit me. That next week I was still down. Julia had noticed and asked me what was wrong. I told her, issues with my ex. She hadn't worked there when all of my troubles started, so she didn't know the whole story. Tom, she said, let's go grab a bite to eat after work. I hate seeing you so glum. I'd hate to have my sour mood rub off on such a happy person, I told her. Nonsense. Maybe I'm just what you need to get you out of your funk. There at Washer flirting again, or was it totally innocent? I've been out of the game for so long I couldn't be sure of anything. Well, dinner was nice. We sat and talked. She asked me about what had happened with Kathy. She could tell by the emotional answers I was giving that I still harbored a lot of hate for my ex and her lover. I apologized for going on about all my issues and asked her about her relationships. She told me about her marriage to a drunk, and then a long-term relationship 6 years with a guy that decided he didn't want to ever get married. She struggled with that. Did he not love her? Did he want to play the field? She wanted to have children but couldn't see having them without being married. She needed commitment, an assurance that he was going to be there for the long haul. As we ate, we talked, taking turns discussing all kinds of topics. It was obvious to me that we had a lot in common: politics, religion, family values, vacations, and the future. At the end of our meal, we made our way out to the parking lot. Then, without notice, she stepped right up to me and gave me a hug. I was stunned and thought to myself, who is this young woman that could show such concern for me? As she walked toward her car, I just looked at her. She had to be 10 years younger than me, at least a short, petite Latina woman that always seemed to have a smile on her face. I really wanted to learn more of her story. We would have to do this again soon. Julia had certainly changed my mood. As I drove to the apartment, I was smiling and singing along with the Radio Some country song that I had heard a number of times before. When I walked into my living room, I saw the letter I had started. My smile went away, but my mood was definitely better than when I had started the letter. Having a young woman care enough to try to cheer me up definitely helped me to have a new perspective on life. I sat down and picked up the paper and thought about my ex-wife. Our relationship wasn't perfect, no one's is. Just ask any couple that has been married for any length of time. There are things that your mate does that, if you focused on them, would drive you crazy. You learn to ignore those things, or at least learn to live with them. That made me think about the dinner with Julia. I compared Julia to Kathy. There was something different. Then it dawned on me I knew what was different. It was the clink, clink, clink of Kathy's fork touching her plate. My ex had a habit of tapping her fork on the plate 3 times before taking a bite. I had asked her about it one time. She didn't even consciously know she was doing it. When she took a minute to think about it, she came up with a reason why she did it. To ensure all the food is securely on my fork so I don't spill it on my blouse. I guess that's a good reason, and I learned to live with it. I even learned to ignore it. One thing I do know, I'll not miss eating with her. I put pen to paper and started writing again. When we were first married, I found it cute the way she always touched her fork 3 times to her plate before she eats each bite of food. I have to admit, though, it did really annoy me towards the end. Hearing that clink, clink, clink all throughout our meals, even when out for dinner, there it was, clink, clink, clink. That next week at work, Julia let me know that she enjoyed the time we had spent together. Being polite, I said, "So did I. We will have to do that again." "When?" she asked. That surprised me a bit. How about Friday if you don't already have a date, that is?" "Nope, I'm free for you," she said, smiling. There it was again, that flirting. Or was it just an innocent comment? That night, when I walked into the door of my apartment, I was whistling a tune. I saw the letter on the coffee table and thought to myself, not tonight. I don't even want to think of my ex. Friday came, and we again found ourselves out enjoying a meal together. I was nervous. It was a Friday night, and I was eating a meal that we had actually planned with a beautiful woman. I guess it was a date. It had been so long for me that I didn't know what to expect or what was expected. I did know that this woman in front of me was pleasant to be around and also pleasant to look at. Also, I knew she was interested in learning more about me. We finished our meal and then just drove around. I know I was nervous, and maybe she was too, but when there was silence in the car, neither one of us felt the need to fill it with useless prattle. I appreciated that she was comfortable just sitting in the car together as I drove. At the end of the night, I brought her to her condo. We talked for a little while, then she went inside. As I walked into my apartment and saw the letter still sitting on my coffee table, I just grinned to myself. A week went by, and on Saturday afternoon, Sarah called me again. "Dad, did you send back your RSVP to Mom?" "No, honey. I told you I threw the invitation in the trash where it belonged. Dad, will you go for me? Why do you want me to go so badly, Sarah? Do you think I want to see that a-hole smirking at me as he marries your mom? Dad, I know you two don't get along, and I get it. But if you don't go, it will just reinforce in his mind that he has won. Honey, I don't know. I don't think your mother really wants me there anyway. I think he probably put her up to sending the invitation. Dad, please think about it. I will, honey, but don't get your hopes up." We finished our phone call, and I was a little depressed. Why couldn't Sarah understand how I felt? I needed to put a smile on my face, so I decided to call Julia. "Hey, Julia, how are you? I was just thinking about you, wondering if you had plans today." "Well, that makes me feel good that you're thinking about me. I don't have anything planned. Do you have something in mind? I want to do a road trip. Are you up for it?" "Where to?" I asked. "Let's just hop in my car and see where it takes us. Okay? I'm all yours." As soon as I said it, I hoped she didn't take that too seriously. I didn't want to scare her by making her think I was moving too fast. We ended up driving through the countryside, looking at the wonderful world around us. We traveled some high mountain roads where the views were breathtaking. We stopped at a scenic overlook and walked up to get the best view. The wind was a little chilly, so I put my arm around her to share my warmth. She looked up at me, and I looked down into her eyes and kissed her. It wasn't a long, passionate kiss, rather one that said, "I like you." It was the first time we kissed. I had been hesitant to do anything. I didn't want to scare this lovely woman away, and also it had been almost 3 decades since I had kissed anyone other than my ex. She smiled and hugged me back. That was a good sign. We walked arm in arm. Over the last few weeks, we had talked about our past relationships. She had married in her early 20s a drunk that had become abusive. Luckily, she said, I saw early on that he wouldn't give up drinking, so I made a conscious decision not to have any children with him. I didn't want to bring them up with an abusive drunk as a father. We discussed my divorce again. She couldn't believe that after all those years together, my ex decided that I wasn't good or rich enough. We walked along, and then I talked about my daughter. When I mentioned that she was 22, she said, "Oh, she's 10 years younger than I am. Julia is 32. I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing? I'm 48 years old. Why would you want to hang out with an old guy like me? She looked at me and gave me a look that could kill. Then she said, Tom, if you can't tell that I like you and that your age means nothing to me, then maybe I don't know you at all. Maybe you should find someone that's old enough, doing the finger air quotes, so that I won't be wasting either of our time. I looked at her. She had moved a bit away from me. I blew it, I said to myself as I sat down on a rock bench nearby. Why am I so stupid? I have a good thing going with someone that makes me happy, and I have to go and say something to screw it up. I looked over at her. She was turned away, but I could tell she was crying. I got up and approached her. I hesitantly placed my hands on her shoulders and pressed my body gently to her back. I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. I guess I just can't believe a gorgeous woman would want to spend time with me. I'm not movie star handsome, far from it. I'm barely average. She turned her head slightly, and I could see the tears still streaming down her face. Julia, I know it is early in our relationship, but I'm developing strong feelings for you. I guess I was just trying to guard against getting my heart broken again. She turned around and looked at me. You don't think I'm scared? My ex-husband was an abusive drunk. He wasn't like that before I married him. At least, I didn't see it then. I was in a relationship with a guy that wouldn't commit. I think you are different, and I thought we were creating something special. I am not into one-night stands. Having a relationship with someone that I like and care for is what I've been searching for. I thought I found that guy. But if our age difference is all you can think about, then maybe we shouldn't even be friends. I looked at her. The little makeup she wore was smudged, but she was the most beautiful woman in the world to me. I grabbed her gently, pulling her to my chest. Then, after a light hug, I pulled away a little bit. That is when I kissed her again, only this time passionately with all of me. She soon reciprocated, and we stood there making out with the sun shining down upon us. We must have been there quite a while because when we finally stopped kissing, I noticed that some storm clouds were rolling in. I looked at Julia and said, "Those clouds look kind of ominous. We better head back. In fact, we'd better skip the scenic route back and hit the highway." She looked at me and said, "Can I interest you in a home-cooked, authentic Mexican dinner when we get back?" "That sounds great, but only if you let me help." "Well, I have never had a man in my kitchen before, but if you're willing, I'm willing to take the chance." I was glad and a bit surprised that neither of her 2 past relationships helped her in the kitchen. Was that a cultural thing, I wondered? On the trip back, I noticed something else about Julia that was different than Kathy. It was something good, and it made me smile. I would have to put this in my letter to the a-hole. Dinner was great, and although I think she felt a little awkward with me helping out, we were soon prepping like a well-oiled machine. To say the food tasted great would be an understatement. Authentic was definitely better than the supposed authentic food you buy in the grocery store or even the restaurants. She told me that the recipes and prep had been handed down from grandmother to granddaughter for generations. That amazed me. I couldn't think of anything that my ancestors had passed down except my genes, of course. We ended the night on the couch with more kissing and hugging. It felt so good to have a woman's body so close to mine. We didn't take it any further, though. I think we were both still gun-shy, and I know I didn't want to rush things. I wanted to grow our relationship. That night, when I got home, I went right to the letter. When I had started the letter, I wasn't sure if I would send it. I just needed to get things off my chest. Now, I still wasn't sure, but I was leaning towards sending it. The letter was therapeutic, and I was able to get rid of some anger, so I kept it on the coffee table to write my thoughts down when I found I had something I wanted to say. Tonight, I had something to say. Thinking back to when we were first married, young and in love, we had just started our life together as well as our new careers. As such, money was a little tight, so our honeymoon was not to exotic locations, but was a drive to the Poconos in Pennsylvania. We took turns driving the 6 hours. When you're newly married, you don't let little things bother you. It was, however, the first time I noticed that Kathy doesn't like using cruise control. That wouldn't be a big problem, except that she fluctuates 2 to 3 mph every 20 to 30 seconds. I actually got a bit queasy. After we stopped for lunch, I told Kathy I would drive the rest of the trip. So from then on long trips, I would drive. I set the letter down. Riding today with Julia showed me that long drives were not going to be a problem for me in the future. I needed to write something else down to get it off my chest. When Kathy and I had gotten married, it had started out awesome. I needed to express this to the a-hole. Our honeymoon was awesome, literally no holds barred. Early in our marriage, there was nothing that we didn't try together. Every position imaginable, even wheelbarrow. For the last 10 years, it has been strictly missionary, nothing else. The sex life was so bad that I haven't had one of those happy endings in years. Maybe she is more adventurous with you. For your sake, I hope you get it more frequently than I did these last few years. Initially, I thought that maybe menopause was rearing its ugly head. Maybe, however, she was bored with me, and that is why she started up with you. Obviously, we are all getting older and fighting that middle-aged spread. Also, gravity has taken its toll. Her mangoes were hit the hardest. They now look like bananas. There were times I could not differentiate between her belly and her tits because they were so close together. As they say, she became very down to earth. Despite all of that, I hoped I would be with her for the long haul. You, however, probably have every day of those 30-plus years to grow old with each other. Yes, the best man has won. Enjoy your prize. Sincerely, your Nemesis, Tom Johnson. I had finished the letter. I could write pages of the little things that got on my nerves, things that I had learned to live with. However, I was done looking back, ready to look toward my future with Julia. Early the next morning, I called Julia. She answered, "Well, hello, do you miss me already?" Yes, I do," I said with a smile on my face. "I was wondering if you had plans on the long 4th of July weekend. It was 2 weeks away, but I wanted to do something special." "No, what do you have in mind?" "Well, I don't want to sound like I'm rushing our relationship, but would you like to go away for a few days? I thought we could go down to Virginia Beach." Then, not wanting to put pressure on her, I quickly said, "We can get 2 hotel rooms. I don't want to make you uncomfortable." She responded in a way that surprised me and showed me that she cared. "I won't feel uncomfortable, but I am concerned that you may not be ready. Your divorce still seems to be a little raw for you." "Oh, I'm ready," I said, and then, not wanting to sound like a lecher, I said, "I know I was depressed for a while there. As you know, I had just gotten the invitation to my ex-wedding ceremony. It brought up a lot of resentment that I was still harboring. You, thankfully, have turned that around. I thought after yesterday you may be ready to move forward," she suggested. "Yesterday was great. These past weeks I was afraid that I might be moving too fast. It's been years, and I don't enter relationships lightly. Nor do I, Tom. You, however, are a person that I feel very comfortable with, and I know you are a good person." Then, feeling courageous, I said, "Well, I am good even when I'm bad." I said it in a semi-joking, lecherous tone. She laughed. "I'll have to keep my eye on you then. I really enjoyed the banter." It showed me that we had moved past the on my best behavior stage of our relationship. We made plans to meet for lunch, and I hung up the phone with a huge smile on my face. I immediately went online and booked 1 room with 2 queen beds on to play on and 1 to sleep on. I guess I am a lecher. That next week, Sarah called again. "Dad, Mom says you're not coming to her wedding. She said she hasn't gotten your RSVP yet. Dad, I really wish you would go for me. Sarah, honey, what would I need to be there for? It isn't your wedding. I want to dance with my father. How could I get out of this without disappointing my daughter? Honey, I'll be able to dance with you next year when you get married. What's it going to hurt for you to come for a few hours? She whined. I'd feel like everyone would be looking at me with pity. There's the ex-husband she dropped to marry this guy. I can't believe he's here. Oh, Dad, they would not. I think they would, dear, so bring a date then. Show them you've moved on. Well, see, I replied. Dad, the wedding is about a month away, please, she pleaded. Well, see, that's the best that I can do right now. I changed the subject, and we talked about other things in her life. She sure was a busy girl, burning the candle at 5 ends. Later in the week, Julia stopped by my apartment with Chinese food. She said, Surprise, I thought I'd spend the evening with my favorite guy. Of course, I invited her in. She set the food on the table and asked, Do you want to eat it out of the containers or should we use plates? I liked that a girl that was down to earth, willing to eat out of Togo containers. Not wanting to sound uncivilized, though, I said, I'm sure I've got at least 2 clean plates around here somewhere. Let's sit at the table to eat. I'm okay either way, she said. I grabbed the plates and silverware, and we sat down to eat and talk. While we were eating, she slipped her shoes off and started rubbing her foot up and down my leg. I looked at her and said, It appears the Kung Pao chicken isn't the only thing that is hot tonight. She just looked at me with a fake, innocent look and said, I don't know what you're talking about. I just smiled as she kept on rubbing my leg with her foot. After dinner, we went into the living room and sat on the couch. We focused on each other as we started making out. She pulled away and said, I have to visit the bathroom, but don't you forget where we left off. Wow, what a woman. She wasn't gone for long, but while she was gone, I went into the kitchen. I was just about to pour us a couple of glasses of wine when I asked her, White or red? I'd rather have a bottle of beer, was her reply. Wow, what a woman. I grabbed a couple of beers and headed back into the living room. As I rounded the corner, I stopped. She was intently reading my letter to the a-hole. She looked up at me with a guilty look on her face, saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have just started reading your stuff. I'm sorry. I feel terrible. How could I be mad at that gorgeous face when it was obvious she was truly sorry? Also, she felt comfortable enough around me to pick it up in the first place. It had been sitting there on the table where I left it. Let me explain. You don't have to, she said. I shouldn't have been so nosy. Julia, it's okay that you've read it. I wrote it to help to get it off my chest. It is written to the a-hole that is marrying my ex-wife. I started writing it when I got the invitation. This is cheaper than therapy. I just think of things from time to time and add to the letter. I probably won't send it, but it helps me to think that I'm writing it to him. I can see that, she said. It looks like you're working your way through the pain. What you wrote was interesting, though. I blushed, remembering that my entry included descriptions of our sex life. Yeah, I was just remembering life with my ex. I was probably a little cruel there at the end of it. Tom, it's how you feel, and if it helps you get past it, then what's the harm? Wow, what a woman. Julia, you are just what the doctor ordered. I sat back down next to her, took the letter from her hand, laid it back on the coffee table, and kissed her passionately. I pulled my face away from her lips and looked at her. What? Are you upset that I removed your impediment? I smiled and said, Now where were we? We spent the rest of the evening on the couch making love. Leading up to our long weekend, we got together most nights or talked on the phone. We were learning so much about one another. On the Thursday before the holiday weekend, I got a call from Sarah. Dad, I'm calling to make another plea. Will you go to the wedding? I was getting a little perturbed, even though she was my daughter. Sarah, is your mother putting you up to this? No, Dad. To be honest, I think she would rather you didn't come. She doesn't want a scene, but Brad keeps pushing. Why would she think I would make a scene? I retorted. Because he has been your rival since you were in school, she explained. So then why do you want me to go so bad? Do you want me to make a scene? I accused. No, Dad. I want you to show Mom and Brad that you were the bigger man. I think it would be good for you. Maybe force you to deal with it and move on. My daughter wanted me to move on. I had already moved on. My relationship with Julia was already to the point that we were exclusive and we committed to each other. Honey, I'm fine. I've already moved on. Let the a-hole have her and put up with her. Yeah, that sounds like you've moved on, all right, she said sarcastically. Believe me, honey, I have. Sure, there is still resentment, and I wouldn't shed a tear if he died tomorrow, but I have moved on. Sorry, Dad. I didn't mean to get you upset. I think, though, that I'd better let you go before I say something that hurts your feelings. Sorry, Dad. I'll talk to you next week. When Julia called later that night, she could tell that something wasn't right. It's nothing. My daughter called and is bugging me to go to my ex-wedding. I don't know why she is pushing so hard for this, I said heatedly. Can we discuss this over the weekend when you've calmed down? She asked. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to take it out on you. It's okay, Tom. We'll work through this together. We talked for a while longer and made plans for me to pick her up in the morning. That next morning, when she came out of her condo, I was gobsmacked. Julia was dressed in a yellow floral print spaghetti-strap sundress that really complemented her petite frame and olive complexion. I got hard just looking at her. She was carrying an overnight bag that couldn't have carried more than a couple of small outfits. I guess she didn't feel she needed too many clothes for the 3 days. She opened the door to my car, put her bag in the back, and sat down in the front seat. I apologized. I said I would have gotten out and opened your door for you, but I don't think I could stand up without embarrassing myself. She grinned and said, You say the sweetest things. Wow, what a woman. I drove to the hotel on the beach and talked casually all the way. Looking at her sitting there, I don't think I ever lost my arousal. We got an early check-in at the hotel and went up to our room. It had an awesome view. As we stood there, she turned to me and said, Tom, we have a problem. I looked at her questioningly. She had a smile on her face, mixed signals, to say the least. Then she said, I can't take you out in public with that prominent bulge in your pants. Let me take care of that. Well, to say that she took care of the matter would be an understatement. We made love, and she was awesome. Wow, what a woman. Once we were done, she said, Problem solved. Now get up and get going. We got ready, and I was speechless as I followed her out the door, onto the elevator and out to my car, grinning all the way. Before I started up the car, I looked over at her, leaned in, and kissed her passionately. This wonderful woman treated me like a king, and I would treat her as my queen. I was all in. I couldn't tell you what we ate. My eyes and mind were all on her. Tom, she said, interrupting my thoughts. I looked into her eyes. Yes? Can I make a suggestion without upsetting you? I thought a second and said, I can't promise not to get upset, but I'll try. Thank you, Tom. You know I care about you a lot. Oh, I thought to myself, what's next? Tom, I would like to go with you to your ex-wife's wedding. I want to meet your daughter, show off my man to all of the other guests, and finally, I'd like to thank Kathy for making you available for me, she said with a smirk on her face. To say I was stunned is an understatement. I looked at her and a huge smile filled my face. Oh my God, I thought. This would be perfect. I can definitely hold my head high with this woman on my arm. By the smile on your face, I take that as a yes? She questioned. You will make me the proudest man at the wedding, I said. We might have to leave the reception early to put the spotlight back onto the bride and groom. That night was awesome. We consummated our relationship. It was loving and raw at the same time. It had been a while for both of us, so we were a bit eager. I think I did well for a man of my age with only limited experience with different women. When you're with someone as long as I had been, you get into a routine that works for both of you. When you start with another woman, it is a little awkward. They don't react or expect things the way your ex did. I'm sure she felt the same way about what I was doing or how I was reacting. In my opinion, though, we did well. We soon were able to read each other and found our groove. In the morning, I woke up next to this wonderful woman, and she was a vision. Of course, she had bedhead. We had gotten wild last night, after all, but she still looked tremendous. I was expecting her to head straight to the bathroom to start the morning ritual, but she didn't. She turned to me, ran her fingers through her hair, and then laid her head on my chest, giving me a hug in the process. It felt so good and so natural. I just laid there and enjoyed it. Then I kissed the top of her head, and she snuggled in even more. I finally got up and brushed my teeth and relieved my bladder. As I walked out of the bathroom, I looked at her still lying on the bed. I wish I could have taken a picture, but I'm sure that I won't need it to remember that vision. I will remember it for the rest of my life. She noticed me standing there looking at her, and she pulled a pillow over her face. That's when I said something that I don't believe I ever said to my ex. Why would you hide such a stunning beauty behind a pillow? She rolled over and buried her face into the pile of pillows. Her naked backside was fully in view. Then I said, "There is a stunning, beautiful behind." She wiggled her hips, and then I heard a muffled laugh from under the pillows. I quickly got back on the bed and laid beside her, caressing her back and butt. She pulled her head up and gave me a deep kiss. I had brushed my teeth, but she hadn't yet. There was no horrible morning breath. We lay there for a little while, caressing each other. Nothing sexual, just sensual. When we finally got out of bed, it was after 10:00. She went into the bathroom and closed the door. I called out to her, "Do you want me to make a reservation for lunch?" "Lunch," she called back. "I'm hungry for breakfast. Give me a few and I'll be ready." I was shocked, to say the least. Kathy would take an hour. 5 minutes later, she came out of the bathroom with her hair combed and just a touch of makeup on. She truly was a stunning beauty. She went to her clothes and picked out a few things, placing them on the bed. She bent down and put on her panties. There was that other stunning beauty again, so I said, "That is a wonderful view." She turned to me and said, "I'm glad you like it. It's been with me all my life." I laughed. She is so quick with just the right quip. We spent the day walking the beach, visiting shops, enjoying local restaurants and each other. At dinner, we were sitting in a romantic Italian restaurant, enjoying the meal and our conversation. She got quiet, which caught my attention. She whispered, "When we get back to the hotel, I want to try that wheelbarrow position you wrote about." My eyes got wide and a huge smile came to my face. "We can try anything you want," I replied. She just looked at me with those beautiful brown eyes, and I knew I was probably in over my head. Well, that night we did try wheelbarrow and many others. It was our night to experiment. She took me a little out of my comfort zone. We did so many things with her, telling me what she liked and what she wanted. I was eager to please her, though. By the end of the weekend, we were so comfortable with each other, both emotionally as well as physically, that we didn't even bother watching the fireworks. We made our own. Our relationship had hit a milestone. We were a couple. We both knew that this was for real, and were both looking forward to experiencing life together. That week, my daughter called me again. "Dad, the wedding is in 15 days. I am asking, no begging you to be the better man and say yes to going." I hemmed and hawed a little, making my daughter squirm a little on the other end of the line. Then I said, "Okay, but under one condition." "Great, what is it?" "I will have a plus one that you are going to have to meet and accept because she will probably be your stepmom." "What?" "Yep, I believe I'm in love." "How long have you been dating?" "Only a little while, but we both care deeply for each other," I declared. "I can't wait to meet her," she said. "I knew you would find someone." The day of the wedding came. I picked Julia up from her condo. She looked remarkable. She was dressed in a conservative yet somehow sexy dress that accentuated her every curve and enhanced her natural beauty. Again, just a little makeup on her eyes that made her deep brown eyes stand out. It was hard not to look at them. I drove to the church and we decided to sit toward the back. After all, I didn't want to upstage the bride on her special day. 3 days before, I had mailed out the letter to Brad. Yeah, it had been therapeutic for me to write it down, and I probably shouldn't have mailed it, but he was my nemesis after all. We were sitting in the pew, and he must have heard I was there. I saw him looking around for me. We caught eyes, and he headed toward me, I'm sure so he could gloat. As he walked up, he saw my date and nearly stumbled. Julia was so extraordinary that he knew the best man had won. Later, as he stood up front, ready to take the plunge, he had a look on his face that said, "Am I making a mistake?" Well, that feeling of his did not take long to materialize. Initially, I heard bits and pieces about their relationship through mutual acquaintances. Part of me wondered if Kathy would be different with Brad, but another part knew that her behavior wouldn't change so easily. A few months into their marriage, I started hearing rumors about their constant fighting. It seemed that the same patterns that had plagued our relationship were now present in theirs, only worse. Kathy was actually beating him up, both verbally and physically. Brad, who had once seemed so confident and composed, began to look worn down and defeated. Then one day I got a call from my daughter. "Did you hear about Mom and Brad?" I sighed, expecting more news about their marital adventures. What now? I had to get Mom bailed out yesterday. She put Brad in the hospital. They were having one of their daily arguments. A neighbor had called the cops, and once they arrived, they found Brad on the floor and Mom was sitting on his chest, raining down punches. Brad had to get several stitches to close the wound on his head. As for the cops, Mom hit him on the head with a wine bottle and then mounted him to beat him further. Brad has not pressed charges, but he has a restraining order against her. I was taken aback, a mix of shock and an unsettling sense of déjà vu washing over me. I couldn't hold on and actually burst out laughing. At least I didn't get beat up. So he is still going to enjoy his victory over me, or is he going to divorce your mother? Yeah, he already filed for divorce. I guess the day-to-day grind had hit, and the bloom was off the rose. He must have looked and saw 30 or more years of living with this woman and decided that it wasn't what he thought it would be. He didn't even make a year with her. The excitement is in the competition. Once you have the trophy, it just sits there and collects dust. That next year, Sarah got married, and I walked her down the aisle, a proud father. Kathy was there also, of course, but not Brad. They were still in the process of divorce. Kathy spent a few days in jail, but Brad was kind enough not to file charges against her if she agreed to the divorce terms. Kathy didn't get any money from this marriage as well. I met Kathy at lunch at my daughter's place. Julia was running late and had not arrived yet. Meanwhile, Kathy walked up to me. She looked like hell. "Hey, Tom, can I talk to you for a second?" she started. Before I could say no, she continued, "I made a mistake giving up a quarter-century of love and caring for a pipe dream. Brad just kept finding fault with everything I did. Nothing was right or good enough. He even made me get surgery to try to firm up my breasts and take that mole off. It just seemed like he was never happy. Tom, I'm sorry. Is there any way I could make it up to you and we could start over?" I guess my letter did have an impact on Brad. I looked at Kathy and said, "So finally someone found faults in the holier than thou. That is called karma. As for getting back with you, ever since you left me, I have had a wonderful life, no nagging, no finding faults in me, no bickering, no constant yapping, and no yelling at me. Do you really think that I would give up my peace of mind and get back with you? Hell no." I started walking away, and then Julia came and joined me. I held her hand. "This is Julia, my fiancée. We are getting married next month." Then we all had our lunch, and Kathy never spoke a word. A month later, I got married. No, I did not send Kathy any invitation. I no longer had the need to be vindictive. Did I feel sorry for her? No. She made her bed, she had to lie in it. Just because I shoveled a little into that bed doesn't mean she didn't deserve it. Thanks for tuning in to hear Tom's journey from betrayal to a new beginning. What would you have done if you were in Tom's shoes? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories of love and heartbreak. See you next time.